palad at daliri. Ganun din ang iyong hinalaki, kasama ang mga dulo ng iyong mga daliri. Pagkatapos ay iyong palapulsuhan. Gawin ito ng kahit 20 segundo. Pagkatapos ay banlawan ng tubig at patuyuin.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
Final volume 40K. Fly on to 100%. Standing by. Consumption eh.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. We're moving to the next stage of the pandemic, and as the world resets to the new normal, we find ourselves seeking the right balance between health and livelihood, constantly adjusting the boundaries between liberty and responsibility. Welcome to the news. About 250,000 people in Manila will go back into lockdown, according to an official on Monday, as the number of new coronavirus infections in the Philippines surges. Residents in Navotas, one of 16 cities that make up the sprawling capital of 12 million people, will have to stay home for a fortnight, just 6 weeks after emerging from one of the world's longest lockdowns. Navotas has 931 confirmed cases and 59 deaths, according to local government figures. But the number of new infections has spiked in the past 2 weeks. Mayor Toby Tiangco said, quote, "We have no choice but to do it because people are so stubborn," referring to people flouting social distancing rules. The order is expected to take effect on Wednesday or Thursday, according to Tiangco, adding the full set of guidelines was still being finalized. Residents will be allowed to go to work, but outdoor exercise will be banned. Shops and businesses can remain open, but restaurants will only be allowed to do takeaways. Tiangco said he has asked the capital's police chief to deploy troops to enforce the orders and arrest violators. South Africa reimposed a nationwide curfew on Sunday, while Spain's Catalonia region forced hundreds of thousands of residents back into lockdown as coronavirus cases accelerated in many parts of the world.
Distribution of alcohol. We've now decided that the sale, the dispensing, and the distribution of alcohol will be suspended with immediate effect. A curfew will be put in place between the hours of 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. The storm is upon us. More than 250,000 South Africans have been infected with coronavirus, and we know that many more infections have gone undetected.
New coronavirus infections have topped 12,000 per day or 500 per hour in South Africa in recent days, making it the fourth biggest contributor to new worldwide cases after the U.S., Brazil, and India. Meanwhile, a local court on Monday suspended a home confinement order imposed on more than 200,000 people in the Spanish region of Catalonia after an upsurge in virus cases there. The government of Spain's Catalonia region told residents in and around the northeastern town of Lerida to go back into home confinement. More than 70 coronavirus clusters have now been identified in Spain, with the area around Lerida among most concerning. Officials have linked the fresh outbreaks to seasonal agricultural workers who harvest fruit in northern Spain. Other clusters have been identified in the northwest regions of Galicia and the Basque Country, where the country's first regional elections since the onset of the pandemic were held on Sunday. In neighboring France, where reopened bars and restaurants are bustling in the summer heat, officials have warned of rising cases as the death toll topped 30,000. The French government said it plans to introduce systematic testing at airports for visitors from so-called Category Red countries where COVID-19 is still prevalent. In Paris, meanwhile, demonstrating nightclub workers demanded a reopening of their venues, arguing that strictly control-led club visits would be safer than unregulated beach parties. While much of life in France has now returned to a semblance of normality after the virus lockdown, the government is insisting that nightclubs and discos must stay closed for now. Industry professionals argue it would be far better to let nightclubs reopen under strict regulation than letting people indulge in the unregulated outdoor parties with little social distancing that have been reported across France in recent days. The government has said, however, that experience in other countries shows that nightclubs may be hubs for the transmission of infection. President Donald Trump, meanwhile, wore a face mask in public for the first time during a visit to wounded veterans in a hospital outside Washington. Surveys show most Americans are unhappy with how President Trump, who is trailing Democrat Joe Biden in opinion polls ahead of the November election, has handled the public health crisis. The United States is the world's worst-hit country with 135,171 deaths from 3,301,820 cases. Meanwhile, the Trump administration again pressed for full school reopenings in the fall, even as resurgent COVID-19 infections and a record spike in cases in Florida raised mounting questions about the risk of a premature return to classes.
So this is not just simply about making sure our kids are learning and they're advancing academically, but for their mental health, for their well-being, for their physical health, for nutrition. We got to get our kids back to school. It's not just about kids learning and not falling behind academically. It's about all the vital services that children receive at our schools. It's about working families. It's about opening up America again.
Students can and must continue to learn full-time. I've been really inspired by the innovative teachers, schools, and their communities that have kept learning going through this past few months.
Yet another administration spokesman cautioned that some areas might need to return to lockdowns. Admiral Brett Giroir, the Assistant Secretary of Health, said that with COVID-19 deaths continuing to rise, everything should be on the table. The pressure to reopen schools has come from the top, with President Trump threatening to withhold federal funding from schools that refuse to reopen a stance that Davis reconfirmed. Trump has criticized guidelines from the federal centers for control for the safe reopening of schools, saying they were too rigid and too expensive. Many school systems say the safety of millions of students, teachers, and staff can be ensured only with some combination of remote and in-person schooling, or in some cases, remote-only teaching, and that a fully in-person approach to be safe would impose extreme costs. And Sri Lanka ordered government schools across the nation to shut on Monday, just a week after they're reopened, following a surge in new coronavirus cases. The country has reported just 2,617 cases with 11 deaths, but Army Chief Shavendra Silva said nearly half the 1,100 residents and staff at a drug rehab facility near the capital had tested positive in the past week, and some visitors may have also been infected. At least 16 cases had emerged in villages elsewhere across the nation, according to officials, most in the central northern region. Now, Florida has registered more than 15,000 new cases of coronavirus in a day, easily breaking a record for a U.S. state previously held by California. According to official numbers published on Sunday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said the state will send 100 health workers to Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami to help the facility as it battles the coronavirus pandemic.
For the state, we are going to be diverting some of our contract personnel to Jackson. So we're sending, starting tomorrow, 100 contract personnel, medical personnel, mostly nurses, to be able to augment their operations. And I think that that'll be something that'll be very useful for them, as they continue to deal with not only just COVID patients, but also non-COVID patients.
The total of 15,299 cases in the hard-hit southeastern state was up sharply, 47% above the previous day's total, according to the Florida State Health Department. The state also recorded a one-day toll of 45 deaths attributed to COVID-19 over 5 days. Florida has tallied 55,842 new cases. The previous one-day record for new cases had been held by California, with 11,694 cases registered on Wednesday, and before that by New York, with 11,571 cases reported on April 14. Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis moved quickly to begin unwinding the state's lockdown starting May 4 before most other states. In an unusually direct criticism, top U.S. health official Dr. Fauci said Thursday that Florida had moved out of its lockdown before public health indicators justified such a move. But Governor DeSantis contested that, saying his decision was based on the best data at the time. In late June, in a partial reversal, Governor DeSantis ordered bars to be reclosed in an effort to curb the spread of the disease, but infection numbers continued to rise. But the Florida governor has refused to require mask wearing in public, a step some other southern governors have now taken, saying that that was a matter for local officials to decide. Disney World is known as the most magical place on earth, but as the Florida theme park reopened, it was counting on a bit of science: masks, social distancing, hand sanitizer to stave off the virus. In Orlando, Disney World reopened 2 of its 4 parks, Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, after 4 months of closure. Epcot and Disney Hollywood Studios will open on Wednesday. Saturday's visitors had reserved their tickets in advance, allowing Disney to control the number of people in the park and accommodate for social distancing. Tickets are already sold out through July. The park was carrying out temperature checks at the entrance. Hand sanitizer was widely available. Disney said it was enforcing social distancing of 6 feet at attractions and inside shops. Gone are the park's famous parades, which allow mingling with Disney characters. Also absent are the evening fireworks shows. On social media, many criticize reopening as Florida experiences an accelerated number of cases. The state of New Florida is one of the hardest hit by a new wave of cases and deaths in the U.S., already the most affected in the country in the world in terms of infections and fatalities. Mexico became the country with the 4th highest toll from COVID-19 ahead of Italy, according to Mexican health officials and AFP's global tallies. There are 299,750 confirmed cases of infection and 35,006 deaths in Mexico, according to health officials. On the presidency's Twitter account, Italy currently has 34,954 fatalities from the coronavirus. Meanwhile, 2 U.S. Marine bases in Japan's Okinawa have been put into lockdown after of coronavirus infections, with local officials criticizing the American military's containment efforts. Additional restrictions are also in place at the 7 other Marine bases in the region after the spike in cases. According to a spokesman, there are tens of thousands of U.S. servicemen stationed on the southern Japanese island, which has recorded roughly 150 civilian COVID-19 infections. Government spokesman Yoshihide Suga said that 63 cases have been detected in recent days among U.S. forces, and most of them at U.S. Marine Corps Air Station Futenma and Camp Hansen. The Okinawa prefectural government said later in the day they confirmed 32 more cases at Futenma, bringing the total to 95. In response to the outbreak, enhanced Okinawa-wide protective measures were announced for all 9 Marine Corps bases in the region. Spokesman Major Ken Kunze. Those measures include closing non-essential facilities on base, banning off-base activities, and encouraging telework. There are approximately 20,000 U.S. Marines in Okinawa, along with thousands more troops from other U.S. military services. Their presence on the island is a long-standing sore spot, with many in the region arguing they bear a disproportionate share of the burden of hosting American forces. British pilot who spent 2 months on support in Vietnam after contracting the COVID-19 disease went home on Sunday, astounding doctors who gave him just 10% chance of survival. Ralph Vandolph, Empire reports.
Vietnam's most critically ill COVID-19 patient, a British pilot who later developed other severe health complications, was declared free of COVID-19 on Monday. All the doctors said he's fit for discharge and no longer needs to stay in quarantine. He is still being kept at Choray Hospital in Ho Chi Minh City for physical therapy. Stephen Cameron is set to return to his country by a special repatriation flight on Sunday, the health ministry said.
By the generosity of the Vietnamese people, the dedication and professionalism of the doctors and nurses, both here at the Rain and at the Tropical Disease Hospital. The odds say that I shouldn't be here, so I can only thank everybody for doing what they've done. And I go home with a half heart because I'm going home. But
Vietnam will allocate 3 doctors to accompany a British pilot on his flight back to the UK on Sunday. Doctors will carry 6 oxygen tanks and specialized medical equipment to ensure they could respond immediately to any health issues the patient may develop during the journey, expected to last 15 hours. Now, in other news, over 200 Vietnamese workers in Africa seeking for repatriation to meet COVID-19. The workers, including many infected with COVID-19, are working at Senje hydropower plant. They have come to the Republic of Guinea under the contract signed by the UK's Douglas Alliance and Vietnam's CM Vietnam and LILA-MA10. Earlier, a representative from CM Vietnam said that 15 had tested positive for COVID-19 for the first time. The result will be checked again to ensure accuracy. According to the Vietnamese embassy in Angola and the Republic of Guinea, the embassy was informed of the case by CM Vietnam and LILA-MA10. The firms have cooperated with general contractors and local health agencies to conduct the COVID-19 prevention measures, including test and quarantine, so that the Vietnamese workers can return home as soon as possible. CM Vietnam and LILA-MA10 are required to keep a close eye on the workers in order to provide support and report to their family. Under the instruction of Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc, the Vietnamese Ministry of Foreign Affairs have been actively working with local agencies abroad and airlines to conduct flights to bring Vietnamese people in COVID-19 affected areas to home. To date, 51 flights of this kind have been provided, repatriating more than 12,000 people who have been all quarantined as regulated. This is Ralph Wando of Empire bringing you the latest updates here in Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
While many aspects of life have been brought to a stop or to a halt by the pandemic, the need for blood donations in hospital isn't one of them. That's why, in cooperation with the Australian Red Cross, the Iglesia Ni Cristo held a blood donation drive on the coast. Reporting from Australia, here's Diego Madronio.
106 blood donors for the 106th family anniversary of the Iglesia Ni Cristo, or Church of Christ. Indeed, a historical event here in Gold Coast, Australia, participated in by its church members in this part of the world. In cooperation with the Australian Red Cross, members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo participated in a blood donation activity to help the community. Church members from the local congregation in Metro Brisbane, namely Gold Coast, Brisbane, Ipswich, and North Brisbane, traveled to different donation centres such as the Donor Centre in Brisbane and Lifeblood Robina Donor Centre in Gold Coast, among others, to take part in this event. This socio-civic project is sponsored by the local congregation of Logan, District of Australia East, and is to celebrate and commemorate the 106th anniversary of the Iglesia Ni Cristo. Donating blood is one of the highest forms of charity, as each blood donation can save 3 lives, whether it be used to aid in medical emergencies or medical conditions in which blood is needed to survive. The donation process is easy, and it starts with testing your eligibility to donate and finding your blood type. From there, all you need to do is make an appointment, go to the donation center, and donate blood, which is an easy, cost-free process that only takes an hour. Reporting from Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, this is Diego Madronio for Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Eagle News will be right back.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano has blamed the owners of media giant ABS-CBN for the network's inevitable shutdown. Take a look. In a Facebook post on Monday, Cayetano said the ABS-CBN owners, whom he described as oligarchs, have deprived the country of billions worth of much-needed funds by skirting and bending the law. It wasn't the government who shut ABS-CBN down. Rather, it was their owners playing fast and loose with our laws in the past decades that made the shutdown inevitable, according to Cayetano. He particularly cited ABS-CBN's tax avoidance scheme as he compared the amount of taxes paid by the embattled network and its rival GMA7. He also noted that GMA paid 13 billion pesos in taxes from 2017 to 2019 as compared to ABS-CBN's 563 million pesos for the same period. Their methods for avoiding taxes in the billions of pesos may appear legal, but how can you argue that putting that much money in the pockets of one family instead of having it benefit the millions of Filipinos who desperately need it is in any way right or more? To Cayetano, this is especially glaring when the same privilege of using public airwaves yields a much more beneficial result for the people when used by another network. This despite ABS-CBN being a bigger company than that usually has bigger income than GMA, he added. Last Friday, by a 70-11 vote, with one abstention, the House Committee on Legislative Franchises approved the resolution denying the franchise application of ABS-CBN Corp to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain radio and broadcasting stations in the Philippines. 12 lawmakers inhibited from voting. The previous House hearings have exhaustively discussed the network's franchise issues, including the citizenship of ABS-CBN Chair Emeritus Gabby Lopez, the possible violation of the constitutional limits on foreign ownership, reported labor and tax violations, and other violations of the terms of its legislative franchise. Now, Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano also maintained his position that the denial of the franchise renewal is not an issue of press freedom, but part of the government's effort to reclaim the country's patrimony from the oligarchs. Take a look. He said he stands by the decision of the House Committee, stressing that private interests should be kept at the same arm's length distance as the government from controlling the media. For those who continue to push the freedom of press card, Congress is not stifling the right of any journalist, host, commentator, talent, or employee of ABS-CBN or Filipino for that matter from criticizing the government. We simply put an end to the privilege of one family in using a public resource to protect and promote their private interests. Ultimately, he said people will come to understand that this was never an issue about press freedom. Despite the best efforts of the owners to use it as a shield for their abusive corporate practices, Filipinos will see that first and foremost, simply a part of the season's uprooting of the weeds and reclaiming our patrimony from the oligarchs. A Malaysian news portal's chief editor appeared in court today for alleged over readers' comments on the site. But lawyers for the site say there was no intention to publish the remarks and that they were removed quickly once police notified the portal. Take a look.
I think the judges asked a lot of questions. I think there's a lot of issues for them to think about. And we'll see, they have set another date for the decision, to announce the decision. So we'll see, what will be the this decision that they're going to make. Then I believe that it will, great implication for all of us.
But once you're notified of such offensive material, you have 2 working days to remove. So we have complied with the code, and that's a defense under the law. So in sum, there was no intentional publication. And as far as MK is concerned, they've complied with their legal obligation under the law.
The case against Malaysia Kini, an independent title that has made a name for itself by reporting on the misdeeds of the ruling elite, and Editor-in-Chief Stephen Gan was brought by the Attorney General. It relates to 5 readers' comments posted under an article that were critical of the judiciary, with the Attorney General saying they had eroded public confidence in the courts. Proceedings began on Monday at the country's top court, with prosecutors arguing that Malaysia Kini had facilitated publication of the remarks. Lawyers for the site said it had not intended to publish them and that they were removed quickly once police notified the portal. Malaysia Kini's lawyer Malik Imtiaz told federal court that Gan had nothing to do with publishing the comments and that there is nothing to show that Malaysia Kini willfully turned a blind eye to the publication, adding that the case could have a chilling effect. The court said it would hand down a ruling at a later date. Gan, who founded Malaysia Kini in 1999, could be jailed if judges rule against the site, since a mired party seized power in Malaysia earlier this year, criminal probes have been launched into journalists, activists, and opposition figures in what critics say is a sweeping effort to silence dissent. In other news, the gunman behind New Zealand's Christchurch mosque shootings sacked his lawyers on Monday and opted to represent himself, raising fears he will use a sentencing hearing next month to promote his white supremacist views. Australian national Brenton Tarrant will be sentenced on August 24 on 51 murder convictions, 40 of attempted murder and 1 of terrorism arising from last year's massacre, the worst mass shooting in New Zealand's modern history. He has pleaded guilty to the charges. In March 2019, Tarrant gunned down Muslim worshippers during Friday prayers at 2 Christchurch mosques, live streaming the killings as he went. His victims included children, women, and the elderly. The former gym instructor unexpectedly reversed his not guilty plea in March this year, removing the need for a lengthy trial. The terror and murder charges all carry life sentences, setting a minimum non-parole period of 17 years while also giving the judge power to imprison without the possibility of release. New Zealand does not have the death penalty. Survivors and families of victims will be present during the 3-day sentencing hearing, and Islamic Women's Council of New Zealand spokeswoman Anju Rahman said many don't want to hear from Tarrant. Okay, get the latest situation in Ireland. Rowena Bianca Rino reports.
Irish Finance Minister Paschal Donohoe was picked as the new president of the Eurogroup, a key role as Europe sits in the depths of its deepest recession since World War II. The group together the Eurozone finance ministers who help guide European economic policy and where political divisions can be bitter, especially in times of crisis. Donohoe beat out the favorite Nadia Calvino of Spain, as well as Luxembourg's Pierre Gramegna for the job, winning at least 10 votes of the 19 ministers, though the final result was not made public. The job is considered one of the EU's key positions, along with the heads of the European Commission, EU Council, and the European Parliament. Who begins his term on July 13 and will be an important figure in watching over a massive EU recovery plan that is still in negotiation amid angry North-South divisions. Let's listen to the following announcements.
For Europe. It's a great privilege to have the opportunity now to be president of the Eurogroup. I'm aware of what's involved in the job because I've seen this agenda at play now for 3 years. But I am very confident that as great as the demands are and as great as the challenges are, that this is a challenge that Europe will rise to, that Ireland will rise to. We know what's at stake here in Ireland. We know what's at stake in Europe. And I'll play my role working with all of my colleagues in the Europe to make our contribution to a recovery that we will deliver. We are in the midst of a profound economic challenge. As we speak tonight, there are so many citizens here in Ireland and across Europe unsure if they'll have a job, unsure of what their income is going to be tomorrow. So many employers worried if they mightn't be around next year. So the one fiscal priority has to be reaching agreement in relation to the recovery fund and then implementing it.
And clearly the message campaign of Ireland and of Pascal being a bridge builder between the different interests in Europe at such a critical time in European history, I think was the telling strategy.
The news road to victory began last week by gaining the crucial support of the European People's Party that unites the European conservatives, including Chancellor Angela Merkel's CDU in Germany. Donohoe is regarded as a prudent caretaker who kept his country on the right track after the ravages of the Eurozone debt crisis. Paschal Donohoe has been Ireland's finance minister since 2017, spearheading measures to recover from a ruinous post-2008 recession and break the cycle of the boom and bust. Fresh-faced, short, with a sing-song lisp, Irish media have playfully compared the 45-year-old mannerisms to a choir boy or a school prefect. But he earned his grudging respect for cautiously steering the Irish economy out of choppy waters. Under his stewardship, the Irish government last year clawed its way back to a budgetary surplus for the first time in a decade, as he boosted the state coffers to prepare for Brexit. He retained his role in the new coalition government formed last month between the centre-right parties Fine Gael and Fall, propped by the Greens. That is taken as a sign of his solid reputation, and he has trusted to the economy as it navigates the twin threats of coronavirus and Brexit. The Eurozone economy is set to contract by a record 8.7% this year, with mass unemployment and other dire consequences still a possibility. The choice came as a surprise and has attributed to a campaign by ministers from small countries who were wary of giving the highly strategic post to a European heavyweight such as Spain. Ireland has angered its partners over the years for its firm opposition to a digital tax and spirited defense of its low business tax that has attracted US big tech companies to its shores. Donoghue will also be in charge of reviving stalled reforms of the single currency that is widely seen as needing fixing. So on a bit of background on Paschal Donoghue that attracted his supporters, Donoghue was born in the Irish capital in 1974 and attended Trinity College Dublin on a scholarship, graduating with a degree in politics and economics in 1996. He left for Britain to work for multinational Procter & Gamble on the fast-track graduate training program. He rose through the ranks in 6 years to become UK Director of Sales and Marketing, returning to Ireland in 2003 to work for drinks giant Diageo, which owns Guinness. From there, he entered local politics on Dublin City Council. He was elected to the Irish Parliament in 2011 for Fine Gael as voters turned their back on the Fianna Fáil government of Brian Cowan as punishment of the post-2008 recession and austerity. From 2013 to 2016, he served variously as Transport, Tourism and Sport Minister, Public Expenditure Minister, and European Affairs Minister. When Leo Varadkar became Taoiseach or Prime Minister in 2017, Donoghue was appointed Finance Minister, presiding from an office he decorated with Star Wars figurines. He emphasized deficit reduction and pledged to work to redefine, re-energize, and renew the political center ground to create a republic of opportunity. His first budget in 2018 was described by the Irish Times as more porridge, less pyrotechnics. The same could be said of his second and third uncontroversial budgets. Overshadowed by the hard Brexit fallout, Donoghue has sought to rebuild fiscal buffers and avoid lavish spending which defined the heavy boom of the Celtic Tiger period that precipitated the post-2008 crash. I'm Juana Bianca Arino, correspondent of the Republic of Ireland, and we live in interesting times.
Floods across central and eastern China have left more than 150 people dead or missing and are swelling major rivers and lakes to record high levels. Authorities are warning that the worst was yet to come. Now, the coronavirus bureau of Wuhan, through which the Yangtze River winds, is on an expanding list of centers watching warily as the powerful river's levels in the city of 11 million have hit their third highest in history and are projected to rise further through the week, according to state-controlled media. Flooding has been an annual scourge since ancient times, typically focused in the vast and heavily populated Yangtze Basin that drains central China. Near continuous heavy rains since late June have flooded vast areas, leaving 141 people dead or missing so far, affecting 37.89 million others, and destroying 28,000 homes, according to central government tallies. The downpours have intensified since last week. It caused waters to spike high and the government to ramp up alert levels. 33 rivers have reached record highs and alerts have been issued on a total of 433 rivers, according to officials from the Ministry of Water Resources during a briefing in Beijing on Monday. And rescue teams in the northern Indian state of Assam face a double challenge of floodwaters and coronavirus as they help villagers affected by annual floods, which affected 3 million people so far and killed 48 since May. Over 2,000 villages in 24 districts of the state have been inundated. Demaji in Upper Assam and Barpeta in Lower Assam are the worst hit. The state government has set up 224 relief camps across 16 districts where over 21,000 people have currently been trapped. The state disaster management body said massive erosion has been noted in Sonitpur, Nagawan, Udalguri, Chirang, and Baksa districts. Japan will allocate $3.7 billion for the recovery of regions hit by the devastating flooding and landslides that killed at least 72 people, according to the country's prime minister on Monday. The torrential rain started early this month in southwestern Kyushu and then later hit central Japan. It prompted evacuation orders for hundreds of thousands of people. On a visit to the hardest hit Kumamoto region, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said the government will make use of a budget surpassing 400 billion yen or $3.7 billion for recovery efforts. The toll in the rains now stands at 72, but the search continues for more than a dozen people still officially listed as missing. The rain front started in the southwest on July 4 and caught a swathe of destruction. It came in the middle of the country's annual rainy season, and the National Meteorological Agency warned Monday that more heavy downpours were possible. And Russia's Forest Service said there were nearly 300 wildfires across the vast country's northern wilderness as it attempted to contain them with methods including explosives and cloud seeding. Freakishly warm weather across large swathes of Siberia since January, combined with low soil moisture, have contributed to a resurgence of wildfires that devastated the region last year. The European Union's climate network said this week, it said that both the number and intensity of fires in Siberia and parts of Alaska have increased since mid-June, resulting in the highest carbon emissions for the month, 59 million tons of carbon dioxide since records began in 2003. Russia's weather service expert Roman Vilfan said that anti-cyclones, which create abnormally clear skies with no clouds or rain, had increased in the northern hemisphere. In the Arctic, meanwhile, he said, where the sun doesn't set in the summer, this means that sunlight is heating the Earth's surface around the clock, increasing the risk of fires. Russia's weather officials and environmentalists have said climate change is a major factor behind the increase in fires, though exacerbated by an underfunded Forest Service forced to leave most blazes unattended. Eagle News will be right back.
Hello, my name is Robin and I'm 5 years old. My mom and dad said many people are getting sick. That is why I have to stay at home. That is why I cannot go to school. I cannot play outside and I cannot even visit my friends. We can only go outside if we visit the doctor or if we need to buy some food. And when we get home, we have to wash our hands. While I'm at home, I do my homework, clean up my toys, help cooking our food, and help my parents with their work. Please stay home so we can all play together again. Bye!
The International Monetary Fund, IMF, again sharply lowered its Middle East and North Africa economic forecast to its lowest level in 50 years over the twin shock of the coronavirus pandemic and lower oil prices. Let's listen in.
The region has been facing a crisis like no other, a twin shock that affected both the normal functioning of their economy due to the confinement measures were introduced and that helped save lives. There will be, unfortunately, increase in unemployment. And in our region, this will come on top of already a high level of unemployment, especially at the youth level. And this is an important issue that policymakers need to focus on. There is also another vulnerability, which is the level of remittances. that constitute an important lifeline to different countries, Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, and other countries have an important reliance on those resources. Therefore, it's very important at this stage to make sure that all the policies are geared toward creating job opportunities. Oil exporting countries expect that there was around $270 billion of revenues from oil compared to last year, which is a big drop. This crisis will have an impact on their fiscal account as well as also on their external account. And we expect also growth to be negative for most of the countries here, and we have revised it downward for most of our countries.
The region's economy will contract by 5.7% this year and shrink by as much as 13% in countries torn by conflict, according to the Washington-based International Monetary Fund in a warning. The economic malaise will see poverty and unemployment rise, stoking social unrest, and send budget deficits and public debt surging. In its regional economic outlook update, the IMF projected the economies of the Middle East and North Africa to contract by 5.7% this year, 2.4 percentage points lower than its April forecast. The projection is the lowest in over 50 years, according to World Bank data, and comes after the region posted modest growth last year. And Britain pledged £705 million to prepare for post-Brexit borders. Erica Celestino reports from the United Kingdom.
Britain on Sunday pledged £705 million, equivalent to $190 million and 788 euros, to prepare its borders for cutting ties with the European Union on December 31, amid concern within government that it is not ready. The money will fund new border posts, IT systems, and 500 new staff to both ensure security and handle new customs controls after Britain leaves the EU Market and Customs Union. Britain ended its EU membership on January 31, almost 4 years after the historic Brexit vote, but agreed a standstill transition period until the end of the year, while it tries to negotiate a new trade deal with Brussels. The talks are moving slowly, sparking alarm among businesses that almost half a century of economic integration with the EU will end abruptly in a few months' time. Citing the disruption caused by the coronavirus outbreak, London has already said it will not immediately introduce checks on EU imports, instead delaying them until July. But in a letter to her cabinet colleague Nicole Gove, leaked to the media this week, International Trade Minister Liz Truss expressed concern that border infrastructure would not be ready even by then. She warned the delay in imposing checks could spark a legal challenge at the World Trade Organization, adding, "I would like assurances that we are able to deliver full controls at these ports by July 2021. The minister in charge of preparing for Brexit said the government had been consulting on the issue for months and insisted borders would be ready. That's the basis of the announcement today, more than £700 million in order to provide infrastructure at ports, to invest in technology, and also to make sure we have the personnel to keep ourselves safe," he told the BBC. The new funds only cover the border between mainland Britain and the EU, with plans for a frontier between the province of Northern Ireland, which will have a special trade status after Brexit, and the Republic of Ireland in the coming weeks. The main opposition Labour Party said Truss' letter showed a growing sense of chaos and confusion within the cabinet about Brexit preparations. The government is also planning a new public information campaign to prepare businesses and individuals for the end of the transition, dubbed UK's New Start, Let's Get Going. It will include detailed guidance for everyone from traders to holiday makers on what might change, Gove said. Reporting from Kansas Kensington Palace here in London, United Kingdom. I am Erica Celestino. We live in interesting times.
Sad news in Hollywood today. American actress Kelly Preston, who featured in hit films like Jerry Maguire and Twins, has died from breast cancer, according to her husband, John Travolta. Now, she was 57 years old. It's with a very heavy heart that I inform you that my beautiful wife, Kelly, has lost her 2-year battle with breast cancer. Hollywood star John Travolta said on his Instagram, he said she fought a courageous fight with the love and support of so many. A family representative told People Preston died Sunday morning, choosing to keep her fight private. She had been undergoing medical treatment for some time, supported by her closest family and friends. People quoted the representative as saying, born October 13, 1962 in Hawaii, Preston studied drama and theater at the University of Southern California. She shot to fame for her role in the 1988 hit comedy Twins, also starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, and in dozens of films and TV shows over a decades-long career. Elvis Presley's only grandson died on Sunday, according to his mother, Lisa Marie Presley's manager. Local media reporting the death as an apparent suicide. Benjamin Keough, 27, was found in Calabasas near Los Angeles. A self-inflicted gunshot wound, according to police sources. They told this to TMZ. Manager Roger Widmowski gave no details about the death, saying that Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's only child from his marriage to actor Priscilla Presley, was uncontrollable and beyond devastated. She adored that boy. He was the love of her life. I think she was trying to her daughters. Keough seldom appeared in public, but the few photos of him showed his strong resemblance to his grandfather. Lisa Marie Presley, who has 3 other children, had described Keough's resemblance to Elvis as just uncanny. Rock and roll legend Elvis Presley died in 1977, age 42. And Bollywood superstar Aishwarya Rai for the coronavirus. Her actor husband Bachchan said Sunday that just the day after he and his father, screen legend Amitabh Bachchan, were admitted to hospital with the infectious disease. Take a look.
अमिताभ बच्चन को सिनेमा में उनके उत्कृष्ट और अमूल्य योगदान के लिए किया है और उनको प्रेरित भी किया है। वे दशकों तक भारतीय युवाओं की भावनाओं के प्रति
And finally, in our news, players of the Philadelphia 76ers, Portland Trail Blazers, Los Angeles Clippers train in the bubble that will host the restart of the NBA season at the Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida.
You take it, first of all, I think Coach did a good job of bringing us along. I think a lot mentally is forgotten during the time away from each other. So just us communicating with each other and getting back on the same page is for us right now. And obviously physically, back in the groove of things is another task for us. But I just think you take it day by day, week by week, and then you build up from there.
But we are already here, as mentally as physically, we're all ready. And then we know the challenge. It's going to be different. It's going to be tough. We all know that, but we were already working for that. And then I feel like I'm also ready to go. We're just waiting for the game days.
We've only been here for a couple of days, and it was our first full day of being out of quarantine. That was nice. That remains the big question. I do believe as professionals, we're here to do a job, and we need to hold up to that standard. My hope.
Yesterday, I've asked the
guys to really self-monitor themselves, especially the veteran guys, and ease into things here a little bit. I've tried to get to kind of the majority of the action early in practice to avoid, fatigue, and get to the main part I think they need to play.
And before we close, we leave you with a word of hope. At the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. See you again. Good evening, good night. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.